Can I do one thing at a time? No, okay. All right, because it is 2:05 and Dr. Mary, you okay?
All is
See
well in the
everything?
universe. Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all so much. It is 2:05. We're so glad to see you today. It is July 8th, and you have joined the exchange. And I had some beautiful person a moment ago tell me that they're not a regular, but they thought that today might be a good day just to kind of reach out and be a part of a group that's like-minded. So welcome to you for any reason that you may have chosen to come. We know that this is a forum that can provide information and you share information, and that is so wonderful to a lot of people who attend. Today's session is, or discussion is about increasing volunteer-led events. And I know that sometimes people think that's really a pretty simple topic to talk about, but I am going to put at least in the chat, or so if you're already here, you'll be able to see this, and what a volunteer-led event is according to AARP OVE, at least as of 2009 iteration for planning, okay? And you can see that a volunteer-led event is one where the volunteers lead the entire event, and that goes from planning on through completion of follow-up, or they co-lead with a staff person and do the same thing, or they co-lead with a partner. But volunteer-led is not just providing, in our way of talking about it, on-site support. My just standing there with you and having had no involvement is not the thing that I think OVE is trying to get across. So, and the reason I thought this topic was important, we've just gone through and are feeling the effects of a voluntary separation program, VSP. And I know that some people, some volunteers have asked about what do I do now that my previous staff person is no longer here. And I know that there are some staff people who've also asked, well, my time for now is going to be really involved in a lot of things. So how do I become more doing the work that I need to do and letting volunteers step in? So that's what we're doing today, is trying to make sure that people have some ideas about how you increase the volunteer-led events so it saves time on the part of staff, but it also helps to engage all of us as volunteers. Okay? It's where we are today. So, Dr. Clark, are you ready with your first questions for the day?
I am. And before I ask my questions, I just want to say thank you all for joining us on this wonderful July 8th. The weather here in Michigan is picture perfect. It's about 78 degrees, and one of those days where I'd like to be sitting outside doing anything other than sitting in a Zoom square. So I know most of you probably have that same thought. So we really appreciate you being here. Also, we have a large group early in our meeting, and if you could add your state name to your box. If you can't do that, just put it in the chat, and Deborah and I will be glad to update that for you. So, our first question today is, must volunteer-led events be handled or focused differently depending on the location, meaning a citywide or an urban location versus a rural or a more small town location? How are those handled similarly or differently? So would you be able to answer that if you lived in a big city? You wouldn't be able to answer that about a rural location. So I guess the question is, how do you handle volunteer-led events in your location and identify what your location is as you share that? Because we know that there are many unique characteristics across the enterprise that other people can benefit from, even if they may live in a different locale. So, with this group of 48 people here right now, I know that there are some great ideas formulating that you want to share, and we want to hear them. So, who wants to be the one to either raise your virtual hand or your real hand? And it's across three screens. So, I'm going to make sure I look across three screens. And I know we have some regulars that I know have some great ideas. If I don't see anybody raise their hand, I know I can call on a couple of people. Mary, Amy. Um,
Hey,
so
Matt.
let me ask another question too. The second part of that. Oh, I didn't even put it in the chat. I'm sorry. There it goes. Um, for those of you who want to read it, must volunteer-led events be handled or focused differently in urban, city, rural, suburban locations? Or how do you handle yours? And who is that hand? Romel Cooks from Georgia. Let's hear you.
I think as much as what the location is, rural, urban, or farmland, is what kind of state you live in. Every state has their own way of doing business, and some of them are run very tightly from the state level, whereas volunteers are not leaders; they are supporters. And then some say, like I have friends I talked to in Florida, they have a lot of autonomy in Florida to do their programs. They're kind of states, big states divided up into segments, and their volunteer leaders lead on their own and inform ASDs pretty much. We get informed and we get told what we're going to work on, and then we work side by side mostly with an ASD. But so I think it depends on, that's more the, how do you do it? And if you live in a state that's very, very state directed, there, what projects you work on or what activities you take on come top down, then it's more either you service that project or you co-plan with the state ASDs so that you do it together. So
Thank you for that contribution. You are absolutely right. And we know every state is so different. And that's why I love these conversations, because even two states that have a downtown or city um, presence, they do things totally different based on whatever their volunteer leadership structure is or their processes and practices. So as everybody's continuing to think, the second part of that question is, please share examples of uh, rural or small town volunteer-led events. And for that matter, for large city events, Ashley, I see your hand up from Texas.
Good. Can y'all hear me all right?
I
yeah.
can. How are you?
Okay. So I am actually kind of in the middle of trying to coordinate a volunteer-led event for a social security
Okay.
anniversary birthday party. And it is taking place sort of in a micropolitan community. So it's a very like rural part of Texas. So it's in Abilene, Texas. And it's sort of like the hub for a lot of people, like if they're going to the doctor or something. And I am doing I'm in Austin, which is like 4 hours away. And so this is taking place in Abilene, and I'm working on coordinating it with the president of the AARP Taylor County chapter, which we've never been in contact with before. And we were, really hoping to kind of get in his area. And I just came across his information in the volunteer portal. And he's been, a passionate member of AARP for many years, has been their legislative chair with Taylor County, and has been around a while. But I've only been with AARP Texas for a year now. And so, working on trying to bridge that. But I lived for a short time in Abilene, and so thinking about the Social Security Party, I'm not calling it like an Abilene party, I'm calling it a big country bash, because that part of Texas is often called the big country. That's what and so it's not just Abilene, but it's sort of all those like surrounding towns and everything. But would be like really oh, thank you so much, Amber. It's been a heavy week here. Um, Thank you. Yeah, so I think that we're, wanting to make sure the event is fun for everybody, and excited to really have some connection with the Taylor County AARP chapter, and also wanting to, hear what thoughts y'all have.
Well, thank you, Ashley. And yes, our thoughts embrace the entire state of Texas today, and always through this challenge that our weather has presented to the entire community. So just know that we're thinking about you as well.
Thank you so much. We all know somebody in our team. We've all kind of have a personal connection to somebody impacted. So and we've all hung out along the Guadalupe River. So it's definitely something that we can feel like we can relate to, and we all appreciate any thoughts and prayers y'all can send with us. So thank you very much, Mary.
You're welcome. Mary, do you have something to respond to Ashley, or do you have something to contribute to the conversation?
So, so in New Hampshire, I think we kind of have a combination of both. We don't have like the big cities like Boston or New York, but we do have the cities of Manchester and Concord. And what I'm finding, especially lately, because I've been around for a while and I've kind of gone through a lot of different phases with AARP. But one thing I'm finding is, if you have a planning committee, having the monthly meetings helps, but also in between that month, I think if you have a planning meeting, we have one group, the one community, the Greater Concord community. They have a every other month they have a what they call a sub-team meeting. It's called their social inclusion group, where everybody gets together, and well, the people that are interested, and they plan events for at least the next 2 or 3 months coming up. They throw out ideas and see what sticks. In Manchester, we've had that. We've gone away from it, and I'm trying now to get it back again, because I'm finding that the more you have communication with the volunteers, the more they understand what AARP is about, and also the more they want to get involved. So I really think communication, and I think if you can have some planning meetings, that would help. Everybody kind of takes the month of July off, but I just got together with my co-leads, and we're already planning for our August meeting, which we want it to be a fun thing. But and we're going to have a picnic. So we're having a picnic committee, and the Social Security, we're going to have people who want to get together and plan it. So in a way, that's getting the volunteers led. Some people really want to take charge of a whole event from start to finish, and some people just want a little piece of it. So I think if everybody knows that they can come to the table with their ideas and just even have a little part of it, I think that's kind of the key to getting volunteers to kind of want to take a step forward.
And I think you're absolutely right. And in any project, there's always a piece that somebody can do and feel like they've contributed fully and wholly. So regardless of it's in a rural area or suburban or in a downtown area. Amy from Florida.
Hi, I have a question for the Mary that was just on. I was wondering for those meetings, the planning meetings, is it staff members or volunteers leading those meetings?
It's the volunteers leading the meetings, okay? The staff person is there. Because usually there is something within the world of AARP that it's great for them to present to the group, or sometimes people have questions, and we all like to think we know everything, but it's great to have that staff person there that can just answer those questions. But no, they're volunteer led. They're led by, we have a planning meeting. We do have the ASD there. But basically it's our ideas that we're coming up with.
Wonderful. I love that. Thank you so much. My area has expanded. I have rural and city. So this is actually a really good call for me because I have 4 counties who are like pretty much a major city, but then I have the rest of 9 counties who are rural. So I am trying to figure out how to incorporate and do something in a lot of those or just a few of those. So thank you for that insight.
I will say one thing, if you're rural, the hardest thing is going to be distance. And if your volunteers are amenable, sometimes you can connect via Zoom just for a 1-hour meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Amy, I just wanted to answer in a little bit different way from Mary. She indicated that staff are in the room always when the committees are work, or for the most part, or planning. My experience has been that that is not always the case. So it works for us in Kentucky to have the volunteers do the planning, and there's no staff in the room. And I've been the chairperson, for example, in a committee where we're doing a social event, for example. We do all of the planning, meet with the vendors, do all of that. The only thing that happened was the staff person gave us a budget number, or what they told us would be our budget at the very beginning, never attended another meeting. We told them when it was going to be held. We took care of everything else, recruited other volunteers, and that seemed to work, particularly because there were not enough staff people with time to sit in on every meeting. But there were volunteers who won't, as Mary points out, sometimes people don't want to be the leader, but sometimes we always know there's a role for everyone. And I had people on my committee who swore they didn't want to be the leader and said, "You will be it." But they did everything I told them, which who can complain about that, right? But I just didn't want you to think that, again, we're saying there are 50 states and there are 50 different ways of doing it. But what works? We need to figure out what works for you to get the event done and to manage in the distance and everything that we're having to be faced with now. So thank you for the question, Amy.
Thank you so much.
And thanks, Deborah, because we're about to, like, my ASD is taking on an interim position. So we're being more encouraged to start doing things a little bit more. We haven't gotten into the budget process, but we're going to be kind of leaning more towards what you were just talking about. So it looks like we've got some exciting times coming up.
Thank you. And Kathy, I see your hand up. I wanted to address some of the things in the chat. Do you want to address some of those, or do you have something unrelated?
Please go ahead, Dr. Mary Clark.
Thank you, because I don't want them to get lost before we kind of get off, and then I'll come right back to you. So Barbara from Virginia said, have we considered creating a spreadsheet or other tool that will capture all of the options that have been used in other best practices? And then Ashley had another question that came up this week about how to ask volunteers to lead following a disaster. I would like impacted volunteers to lead the generation of community projects and or AARP backed assistance ideas. I've got some pushback um, that impacted folks are too busy to contribute like currently. Has there been any experiences in any other states that have been impacted by disasters? And I know North Carolina had some, uh, you know, extreme disasters with some floods recently, but I know in other states there may be some examples too. Um, and Riley says the biggest challenge our volunteers express is that they don't know what to do to plan an event. I'm trying to be better at communicating the needs, i.e. location, food, messaging, etc., to give a framework. And Karen agreed and thanks volunteers who don't have experience with planning a bottom-up tutorial with the state office guidelines and rules would be great. All of those things are wonderful. Deborah will put all that chat with this recording, but if you want to just save the chat too, just so that you can have it personally, please do that. Kathy, I'm going to let you go, and then if anybody has any responses to any of the questions, especially about disaster requests, please prepare to share those. Kathy?
Yeah, I love that, Ashley. Thank you for both of those really good examples. The 90th birthday celebration, a lot of states are doing that. So it'd be great to hear how people are handling that and having volunteers lead. And also the disaster, a lot of people on this call have been there, done that. And it's a great question, which is this even a right thing to do? Is this appropriate to ask volunteers to do? So really welcome people to respond to that in the chat or in person. I raised my hand because I think this question of what guardrails, parameters, et cetera, is such a key question. And so for volunteers, what do you need in order to say, well, how could I possibly plan? I need to know, this, and this first, right? And for staff who've gone there and have some experience with that, what have you learned about, as you encourage volunteers to take the lead, what have you learned that you need to provide to them? I just think those are, as we talk with folks, those are things that come up a lot. So it'd be great if folks could share. I don't have anything to offer. I'm just putting in a question, and I have Alf. If you didn't see, I sent you a note, asked you to offer something. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Kathy. Tara?
Hello, everybody. I think that one of the great opportunities we have is to help teach people by putting it into practice. And so I have a great example from the state of Kentucky many years ago. We took a real event and divided it up into the room and talked about different details that needed to be worked out. And we had each table focus on one aspect of that event, everything from food to the event setup, speaker, run of show, everything like that. And we actually did the activity in about less than an hour. And everyone worked out the details. They came together. We looked at the whole thing. And then they said, this is a great starting point. And then from there, volunteers worked individually, within some of those subgroups to continue kind of fleshing out the event. So that way, when you do it as a starting point, do it as an exercise or an activity, you can use a real event or you can make a pretend event, but you can give real feedback about the kinds of things that will need to happen and the parts that can only be held by staff or that may need to be, ushered along by staff. And then you also get the opportunity to give that feedback about things that certainly volunteers could take on. So you're learning about this experience together. And so it becomes easier the next time that those things need to be tackled. So if you're starting from kind of baseline of folks are not, they're used to being told what to do, and they're starting to pass the torch over to them taking more of the lead, doing some of those activities as an exercise when you have team meetings or to get the planning started can help kickstart that, that and help them start putting those things into motion.
Thanks, Tara. Alf, you want to unmute and share from Maine?
Hi there. Yes, having been voluntold by Kathy, I would love to share. I'm a staff member here at ASD in the Maine State Office, and I have a great group of volunteers in our target community in Bangor, but I've had a lot of difficulty trying to get any of them to accept the title of lead or leader on specific community outreach events. So I've tried to just drop that term. I try not to say things like, you'll be in charge of. I try to just assign tasks, and when someone assumes, the right number of tasks, they are by default the lead, but I don't tell them that they are the lead. I just say to other volunteers, oh, if you have questions about that event, you should check in with Linda or Michael or whomever it might be, without designating them as the lead of the event. And it's actually worked out very well. It's such a good group, always willing to say yes to things, except saying yes to the title of leader.
And we know many times titles don't match roles, so titles sometimes become insignificant, right?
One of,
That's right.
one of the things that we found here in Georgia, especially in the Augusta area where I live, is that no matter what the project is or what the activity is, there's always two people. There's always a lead and a co-lead. And so eventually they become one leader because they talk all the time. At least if we do it the way I think we should do it, the person who's leading with me should know everything I know, should have all the contacts I have, should know exactly what the plan is, and should be able to, and I do, because I was kind of given the lead by my ASD, and then I selected my own co-lead. What we do is when I go to a meeting, I let her run most of the meeting. If we have a planning meeting, the co-lead then becomes, Jackie, can you take care of like getting the planning groups together? Let this group work on this, or let them figure out what we're going to have for lunch, and have them figure out what the agenda should look like. So having a co-lead takes some of the scary out of it also. I mean, it's not that most of the people have led something before in their work life or their education, wherever they came from. But in volunteering being a volunteer, you kind of think you're not really supposed to be leading stuff. You're just there to lend a helping hand. I mean, I kind of think of ourselves as a helping hands person rather than I haven't taken on a new job responsibility. So Karen's shaking her head like this. I don't want to run something. I just left a job running something, and I don't want to do that
Exactly.
anymore. So I think we have to, take on we're going to be partners we're going to lead the Speakers Bureau as partners, or we're going to take on this 95th birthday celebration together and kind of put together what it looks like and what we need to do. And I hope that people will give us more ideas about this 95th birthday celebration, because I heard that all 50 states are going to do something on the same day. Anybody else heard that? No?
I see a few heads up and down and some no.
Yeah.
So
So, yeah, I've heard that on the 8th of August, all 50 states are going to celebrate the 95th birthday of Social Security. And I am anxious to hear, because we've been battling it around for a couple of days now. How do you get people in your community to come out to a birthday party to celebrate Social Security when they're so ticked off about Social Security? I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're not. I am. I mean, maybe people are that we don't. If we could, where are the positives? How do we make this a celebration, a happy event? How do we make this so that people want to come out? Because if you think back from the beginning to where we are now, Social Security saved a lot of people's lives over the years. I mean, it was their only income, so it was something to be celebrated. And I just wanted to hear if anybody had ideas on how do we make this a birthday party, not a birthday poo-poo. Boo.
well, Romel, I don't know if Elizabeth has a response to that, but I'm going to let her answer whatever it is she has her hand up for.
Okay.
So we're having two parties, and in both of them, we're going where people are already having fun. They're not coming just for us. We're going where they are and
Okay.
joining their party.
Mhm.
Because we realize kind of what you realize, especially in the summer, people they've got family things they're doing. So we're going one of ours is at Food Truck Friday, which is in a downtown Providence Park. Providence is one of our target communities. Several hundred people come on a Friday night. Lots of young families, older people, all kinds of people come. And so we're going where they are, and we're bringing our celebration to them. And we'll have a tent, and we're gonna have free ice cream, and gonna talk about Social Security with people who come to talk to us to get their free ice cream.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. This is what we thought too. Ours is I mean, they've kind of, we already got part of the plan was already done by the time it got to the volunteer leadership team. We're going to be in a big conference room in a library on a Friday, 4 to 7 when it's hot. I'm trying to think of what would make a person want to come into a library at 4 o'clock on a Friday to hear about a Social Security birthday party, which they have not heard of before in their lives, more than likely.
You do a quiet disco or a silent disco?
I don't know what that is, but we're going to have a DJ and we're going to have a DJ and food. But
That's your solution. You're gonna have to get everybody in headphones, and y'all are gonna have a quiet look into this. That's what you can do it for
That's a great suggestion.
This is because I've never heard of it.
And that brings multi-generations too. That's a great multi-generational hook.
Tell me, Ashley, what was that? A silent disco?
Yeah, I'm gonna Google it, and I'll put a link in the chat to.
Okay.
I hope I'm using the right terminology.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Great
Interesting.
suggestion, Ashley. Becca, from the Virgin Islands, what do you have going on?
Well, we have 3 islands, so we have to throw 3 different parties, right?
Yeah.
And our theme is like Social Security, present, future, and legacy, depending on which island you're on. So I live on St. Croix, so I'm going to be leading the legacy party, and it's going to be a family fun event. We're throwing it at Mutiny Island Vodka, which is a breadfruit vodka distillery we have on island. I have signature cocktails. I have a reggae band called Fire Train, like everybody loves them. So they're going to be performing. I'm going to have a face painter and balloon animals for the kids. And I've been asking our partner nonprofits to set up vendor information booths that they can activate and interact with our community. So I'm asking them to bring games, photo booth stuff, cornhole. And so I'm making the St. Croix event kind of like a festival vibe. On St. Thomas, that's going to be more of like a nightlife night concert. Like there's going to be a big soca reggae band, and it's going to be for kind of the next generation of AARP members, like the people that are coming up like into it. So in their like mid to late 30s, their 40s, their 50s, because it's gonna be kind of a later night event. I'm not sure all the details on that one because my St. Thomas lead is mostly spearheading that. And then on St. John, we're doing a little ice cream social. But I know that like just knowing the likes and what drives our communities here in the Virgin Islands is if you get live music, everyone, and it's a free event, and a signature cocktail doesn't hurt. A free signature cocktail. If it's free alcohol and live music, everybody's coming. So.
And we're actually going to serve real alcohol at an AARP event.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I live in the Virgin Islands. It's a different, we live in a different place, you know? But
where I come from, yeah.
It's an AARP themed cocktail. So they're going to be red, you know? It's a whole thing.
And it sounds like Becca, you know, you're following the theme is go where they are and do what appeals to them. It's not like we're pushing our party on you. We're doing all these wonderful things. You'll want to be there.
We're having a free party. There's nothing else going on in August. Come get a drink, bring your kids, they'll get their faces painted, you know, like come dance to Fire Train. And the event is from 10 to 2. So it's like an afternoon party. And then you can still go home. And our volunteers don't like, the St. Croix volunteers don't like to drive at night, so a day event is much more conducive for them.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing those 3 wonderful events.
You're very welcome.
Joyce, what's going on in Virginia?
Well, a lot's going on in Virginia. You probably saw Amber's comment about ice cream in the chat. But first, let me say that we've got 51 or so people on this call. And do you know that 20% of them are from Virginia? I just
I
want
saw that.
so thank you, Virginia, for showing up today. Back on May the 20th, our new CEO, Manisha Mentor Jordan, came to Virginia to speak at the Governor's Conference on Aging. And that evening, several of us had the opportunity to get dinner with her, and we're talking about what we were going to do to celebrate Social Security's birthday or anniversary. I know somebody said it was anniversary and not birthday, but semantics. Who cares? It's the 90th
Mhm.
of Social Security.
Mhm.
And we were talking about what we could do, and ice cream came up, and she came up with a cute little thing about get the scoop on Social Security and don't let Social Security melt away. So I'll share those with you just because they came down literally from the top. So if you want to use them, by all means do. I also want to say to the person that said, you know, how can you invite somebody to a party about Social Security? It is our job. It is our job to make sure that people out there know that as crazy as things might seem right now, AARP staff and volunteers are doing all we can to make sure that Social Security is going to be around for another 90 years. And that message um, may not satisfy everybody's concerns right away, but we have to let people know that AARP is there advocating for Social Security benefits, not only to continue, but more importantly, and more, not more necessarily, but as importantly, is the Social Security customer service that is so challenging right now. Last year, we saw a great improvement from having to wait 3 hours down to as little as 17 minutes. Well, if I have to wait 17 minutes on phones, I'm not that happy. But now we're back up to above 2 hours again. So we have to let people know what AARP is doing on behalf of our population. So that said, if any of the rest of you want to shoot me down, that's okay. I don't mind.
Joyce,
The other the
Joyce,
virtual call.
when I was thinking about how can we have a party to associate to celebrate Social Security when most people don't know about it, I'm looking for. I'm saying, how can we use that as our lead?
Okay.
The thing about get the scoop, don't let it melt away. It's a party. It's a reggae event. I mean, Social Security is the backside of it, but the peel part is what I was looking for. You know, I was saying if we put up a sign that says come to a Social Security birthday party, I just felt like we might not quite make our goal of what we're looking for. I was looking for those creative ideas to say, how do we promote it other than just saying that? Not that
Well,
it doesn't need to be. I absolutely believe it and, you know, work for it and have given a lot of my energy to it because a lot of my family
of course.
would probably never have survived had it not been for Social Security. So I'm a big supporter. So
I think, Romel, a lot of ideas have been shared and
yeah.
the chat is just blowing up. So again, that chat is like a gold mine. Josephine and then Karen.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Hi, everybody. Well, I am thinking um, it's 90 years, it's a celebration, and whenever anything is enacted into law, we have a signing. Why not work with legislators and the folks we've been working on to ensure that we have Social Security to do some kind of local resolutions? And that could be the impetus, that could be come out. We're going to have a signing. We're going to share. We're going to have some legislators. We're going to talk about the importance of this. We're going to celebrate our partnerships, right? So I think that would be something to consider if we have the time to do it. It would achieve a lot of different things. It brings people in because you're going to have the big wigs in there. They're going to have good information. They have other partners that we can meet there. So I think it's maybe a good idea. I don't know.
This what you were saying is this would be like a resolution that all the governmental leaders would sign on to, whether they were state, local. Um,
Yes, so the same legislators that were working, right? And then all of these things, any piece of legislation that passes at the federal level is implemented at the local level. So work with both your state legislators, your local legislative, persons, your council members, and those type of persons that you will have been working with already, right? All these communications that took place, all of these partners that you worked with, put a celebration together, acknowledge it, make a resolution. They love to do those.
I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you.
Thank
Mhm.
you,
Okay,
Josephine. And
Absolutely.
Karen.
Um, Hi. Yeah, I said this in the chat, but I think it bears repeating. Generally, in my mind, so much of the communication around Social Security from AARP is crisis driven over the decades, because we've been at this crisis with Social Security before in terms of funding, not so much with the cuts to staff or things like that. But 40 years ago, there was a huge crisis in Social Security that Congress literally avoided in the year that the crisis was going to manifest. It took that long. They had 10 years of notice. They waited until the 10th year to do something about it. So we've been down this road before. And we probably heard a lot from AARP. I don't know, because at that point in time I was too young. But 40 years ago, there was probably a lot from AARP about what was going on with Social Security, just like there's a lot now from AARP about what's going on with Social Security. I think the party idea, I don't have any specific, I'm not an event planner, so I don't have any specific ideas about how to do a party, but I'm just saying, I think a party would really be helpful, because we can't just focus on the crisis. We have to actually celebrate the fact that this program's been around for 90 years. It's been incredibly successful. It started issuing checks to beneficiaries in 5 years later, 1940. So for the last 85 years, not one check to one beneficiary has been missed. This is something to celebrate and to express gratitude about. So there's a crisis going on, but there's also, people are still getting their checks. I mean, most of, they are. And they're having a decent quality of life because of this program that started literally on the back end of the Depression. We need to talk about that more, not just the crisis part. That's kind of how I feel.
Well, and thank you, Karen, for your comments and those that you put in the chat. It's been very interesting to see all of the suggestions that people are making. And as Dr. Mary mentioned, we will be including the chat, but with the recording, so that you can keep up with the suggestions. I know that Amber put in information about getting the scoop on Social Security and how they're actually crafting parties and celebrations. And there's also a question about wanting to have a checklist for volunteers so that they can understand what things are important when they're planning. I think we have that available, but I'm going to make sure that it rises to the top of all the files that we've got and have collected over the years for this exchange. I'm sorry, but we've actually already come to the end of our time, and we didn't even get to all the rest of our questions. You guys had so much enthusiasm around the celebration for Social Security and getting our volunteers involved. We've got other things. I know some of the questions that were asked in the chat and said publicly, I think we probably need to find ways to address those going forward. So we'll try to do some work on our back end to make sure that we're trying to gather some of that information. But we start on time, we end on time. Thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate it. Our next topic is going to be on August 12th. And then we're going to talk about localizing priority issue areas, what works and why. We'll be right in the middle of a lot of the Social Security celebrations, but hopefully we'll have some information available for you before that. So thank you all very much. Really appreciate your coming. Thank you, Dr. Mary, for handling this meeting so well.
Thank you, Deborah, for your
we-
leadership.
We love co-lead. Someone mentioned that. And of course, I couldn't get anything done without a co-lead as strong and as interesting and supportive as Dr. Mary. So
Ditto.
thank you all very, very much. Really appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Deborah, you want to stop the recording?
Yes, ma'am.